Hi there, welcome back to Diagonal Move. My name's Neil. Today I'm going to be looking at a game called War Zed USA. It's published by White Dog Games, designed by Dave Kershaw, I believe. It's a game about the zombie apocalypse, which is awesome because we just don't have enough games about the zombie apocalypse. But where this one is slightly different to many is that this takes a more of a grand strategic view rather than a survival of the fittest type approach that you might find in certain other games. So the map is well, clearly it's print and play. This game does come in a number of formats, and the version I have is print and play. So you know the components are homemade and probably don't reflect the copy that you have at home that you've bought from the shop. But there's a number of areas on the map which are known as regions. On the regions we have dice symbol, which reflect the movement of the Zeds as they're known, the zombies. We also have cities and farms, and along the top here, which are probably just slightly off shot, we can see things like forts, refugees, nuclear strikes, riots, and a range of military personnel. Okay, the game is very simple. It's just a case of rolling some dice, moving some things around, and having a lot of fun. That being said though, I do apologise in advance if, despite how simple the game is, I do make a mistake. And also, please do think about liking and subscribing should you enjoy this video. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we will begin turn one, and I've realised I haven't quite reset the board from my last game. I've played it a few times recently. And so 10 turns to try and save the USA from the zombie apocalypse. At the beginning of turn one, you roll for a random spawning point. There are a number of conventions using the dice, which I'll go through in more detail as we go, but the green one will be the first dice rolled, or the first number, even when I roll them both at the same time. So on the first turn, we roll for the random spawning of the zombies, or the Zeds, and in this case we've rolled 63, which we're going to have a zombie outbreak in Texas. A lab somewhere has presumably unleashed some kind of horrid virus and created a whole raft of undead. So the first thing we do then is we place zombies up to the Z burst maximum, which is this number here. There's a track, you have a minimum and a maximum, and this determines how many zombies are spawned at certain parts of the game. And each round will have 2 zombie phases, more if a random event happens that indicates more. But basically you will place either the minimum or the maximum or somewhere in between based on that track and where the counters are on that track. But for the Z phase 1, as it's known, that happens after the initial event, you place the maximum, and then you decide to eat something. Basically, you in Z phase 1 you attack or move if you can't immediately attack, and in Z phase 2 you move and then attack. Basically, the principle is the same throughout. We do have a whole bunch of these counters here, and I'm going to try to keep them in separate piles because the numbers are halved repeatedly in each case for each phase and each time you do something with the zombies. So we have a pile of 3 and a pile of 2 in that first instance, and the larger group, when the groups are not even, will move first. In the Z phase 1, which we're at now, the first thing you do is attack, and there's a priority order, so they will attack cities, then farms, then open territory. Within those priorities there may be forts or soldiers or refugees and so on, and they will attack within the priorities, the units within those priorities. Okay, so the first thing to do, basically this group of 3 zombies here has eaten the city. The Dallas, I believe it is in the book, has succumbed to the zombie invasion, and what we do now is we place a group of refugees, and then I believe, top of my head, referencing quickly the rulebook, I believe we place zombies up to the Z burst maximum for cities. That's correct, so we have another 5 zombies straight away. Moving now into Z phase 2, and in this case we add zombies to the minimum, so that's 2 in this instance. I'll just add one to each pile. And then the zombies move. And this is a die roll. There's a fair number of die rolls in this game, but not to worry, the randomness in this game is all part of the fun. And we rolled a 4. And on here, that means these zombies in the larger group, and they should be even. Yep, we've got 6 in each group. The one of the groups, if they're even, will move forwards and then will attack. And in this case, they've eaten the farm. Kansas is now short of a farm. And having eaten the farm, you roll a die. And this is known as a D6 Z roll. So you roll a die, I've rolled a 2. Had it been lower than the Z minimum, we would lift the total up. So for example, if it had been a 1, you would automatically move to 2. If it had been a 6, you would move down to 5. If it's a 3 or 4, a 2, 3, 4 or 5, it would stay where the die had rolled. But the numbers are always adjusted based on these minimums and maximums. So we rolled a 2. Kansas gets another 2 zombies. And that is the end of the two phases for the zombies for the first turn. And now we need to look at the player turn. We have a few different things you have to do, and the first one is roll for research. And research is this track here in the middle of that group of 3, and you need to roll for under the number that you have increased your research capability to. In this case we have a 0, so there's nothing going to happen, but had we rolled a 3 and our research capability was over here at 4, we would have generated a breakthrough, which allows you to have a range of cool stuff like increasing or decreasing these numbers, decreasing these numbers, decreasing these numbers here, which is the strength and toughness of the zombies, or doing some really fun things like developing biochemical weapons and other delights that you can attack the zombies with. But we have no research capability at the moment, so we don't need to worry about rolling for that at this point. But what we do need to do now is check for riots. Basically, if you have more people than you have food, the people riot, and that will have a knock-on effect on where you can place your military units later. And the way that works quite simply is the cities, or if the cities plus the refugees is higher than the number of farms plus your food storage track, you have to place a riot counter. Now we should have 10 in total. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10, and we should have 10 farms. We only lost the 1 farm. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's even, so we don't need to worry about a riot at the moment, which means we can move on to our PP points. And completely escapes me for now what that actually stands for. I think it's something like production points. I'll just check. Production points. Okay, and it's a D3 roll for production. So obviously if you've never rolled a D3 before, it's a simple D6, halved basically, and rounded to the nearest whole number. So, or rounded down to the whole number. So for example, if you roll a 3, you'll have 2 production points because you halve it to 1.5. Anyway, let's roll our D3, and in the first turn it is a straight D3. So we've rolled a 1, and we have 1 production point, which is every bit as dreadful as it sounds, because production points are how you do everything in this game. It's how you recruit, it's how you boost your research, boost your food, launch airstrikes. Everything is production points, and we have had a dreadful first roll. So I think what we'll do, we will increase our DEFCON rating from 5 to 4. And this track is super important. I'm not sure if you can see that, there's some sort of shadow or something on the screen, but as you go further towards the right, the weapons and units at your disposal become better. So by moving from 5 to 4, we can now build forts and deploy the National Guard. Unfortunately, we can't do that this turn because we don't have any more points to spend. And that's more or less the end of the player turn, there would be an opportunity to attack if we had any units on the board, but we don't. So we're just going to move to the next turn. We would also check for end of game at that point, once you've spent your production points and you've done any military actions. But we have zombies on the board. It's not the end of turn 10. We still have cities, so we do not need to worry about losing the game just yet, or winning the game. So turn 2. Turn 2, and every turn from now is slightly different to the rest, in that instead of rolling for a region, you roll for an event. And these events can be good, they can be very bad. And this is where the coloured die comes in. Remember, the green is the first number. And so in this instance, we have a 2 and a 3, which on the track here, on the table, will be number 23, which means you have Canadian refugees. Roll a d6 and place a refugee in the open area in the following region. Okay, so the refugees from the north. Okay, on a 4, we have refugees in Ohio. Made their way across the Great Lakes. Okay, now we do Zed phase 1, and remember, it's the zombies attacking first in this instance, and then moving if there's nothing to attack. Excuse me. And we need to identify which region has the most zombies. So this one here currently has 8, and I think this one's got 6. Yep, that one's got 6, so let's just swap a few counters around, make it more manageable. 3, and then 5, okay. A lot of counters to keep halving in this game, but not to worry. And there's nothing to attack here, so the zombies in Kansas will move. And they will move in the direction of Arizona. And here is one of the little quirks of the map. This is a defensive zone, I think. It's a DZ area, anyway, a DZ region. Needless to say, I've forgotten exactly what the DZ stands for, but basically it's an area of natural obstacle for the zombies to move. So that could be, for example, the Rocky Mountains, as it might be here, or it could be the Great Lakes themselves, or the Mississippi River, and so on. But whatever the natural obstacle is, it simply means that a certain number of the zombies or Zeds will not get across. And so to determine that number, you roll a d6. If that d6 is greater than the number of zombies you've got, nobody moves. If it is less than the number of zombies that you have in your moving group, the number that are left over will move forward. So, for example, had I rolled a 1, 1 zombie would have stayed behind, and 3 would have moved through towards Arizona. As I rolled a 4, all 4 of the zombies in that group are stuck. They're prevented from moving by the Rocky Mountains, and the Z phase 1 is now over. And so we need to look at straight to Z phase 2, and which is move and then attack. So we do the same thing, we halve, they're already in their halved groups, and this time we're moving towards Missouri, here. Now there is nothing to eat in Missouri, so we're going to move again, and it's the same principle. We would add any zombies that were already there to the group, halve it, and then keep going. But we don't have any zombies to add to the group at the moment, so we will just keep moving. In a roll of a 1, we decide it's more comfortable back in Kansas, and we repeat until we find something to eat. In a roll of 3, here we are, off to Texas, where, according to our priority list, farms are tastier than refugees for this group of zombies, and so our farm is destroyed. We do again have to place a d6 Z worth of zombies, which is a 3, so we place 3 zombies because it's bang in the middle of those two markers there. Okay. Moving into the player turn, we check for a research roll. We have 0, so we won't be able to do anything with our research. Riots might now be an issue because we have an extra refuge. We have one less farm than we had before, so we have an extra refugee group. Yes, we have an extra refugee group here, and we have a missing farm. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's right, isn't it? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so 11 versus 9. We need to place 2 riot counters. Okay, we haven't got any food. This track here is a food track. If we had food reserves, we could use those instead of losing. We would add those to the farms, but as it is, we don't have any, so we have to place 2 riot counters. These two, and we have to place them on refugees at first. If there are no refugees to place riot counters on, we have to place them on the cities. Okay, now once you've added any riot counters, then if we did have any food storages, we could reduce by 1 to remove one of those riot counters. Okay, but as it is, we're moving into the production phase, or the player phase, and for turn 2 we roll a d3, which in this instance is going to be 2, so 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, rounded up, plus 1, so we have 3 production points, which is much more like it. Okay, so I think it would be sensible at this point to increase our DEFCON rating. It would probably also be useful to launch an airstrike, probably against, I'm going to say let's do it against Kansas to try and limit any upward attack as much as possible. We can't normally launch airstrikes until you're on DEFCON 3. So now we can not only deploy the National Guard and build forts, we can deploy the Marines, the US Army, and also launch airstrikes. And that's what we're going to do. And the way an airstrike works is you pick the group you're going to attack, or the region you're going to attack, and within that region you will work out the total number of zombies and roll a die for each group of 5 Zed that you have, or part of a group. So for example, we've only got 4, that's 1d6. If we had had 6, it would be a group of 5 plus a spare 1, so that would have been 2d6. I hope that makes sense. So with that group of 4, we roll the die, and then having rolled the die, we take off the zombie toughness, or the Zed toughness, which is here, and that currently is on 2. So we lose 4 zombies from that region, which means we have successfully defeated the zombie threat in Kansas, or at least for now. Still got 2 more production points to go. You need to just reduce that airstrike. You are limited to the number of airstrikes you can have. And now I think it would be sensible to recruit some of those soldiers. So let's spend both. No, let's spend 1 production point. We'll get ourselves some of the army, and we'll place the army. What have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's place the army in Kansas. That seems the most likely place, or one of the more likely places they'll go. The zombies, that is. And then for our final production point, let's increase those food stores. We really don't want any more riot counters if we don't have to, because they do limit where you can place soldiers. Okay, we don't have anybody that can fight. There's no zombies in the same region as our soldiers at the moment. Bash the camera there. So we're moving on to turn number 3. Turn 3, we roll the 2 dice. And we rolled a 60, oh, can't see that, 66. And a 66 is an accidental nuclear launch. Roll for a random region using the random table over the top. And that region has now experienced a nuclear strike. Okay, so random region. And the region is 53. So, Kansas is no more. Those soldiers in Kansas were messing with things they perhaps shouldn't have been. Okay, a bit enthusiastic with their defense of Kansas there. The US Army and the Marines and the National Guard are, when they're eliminated, will go in the removed military box, and they do not return. So they're limited to the total number of counters you have, the supplies of the army and the military forces. There is another counter called a survivalist, which is this one here, which are not limited, and these crop up when you have groups of refugees eaten and so on. Okay, so clearly we can't put anybody in Kansas now that it's a nuclear wasteland, as you might expect, but the zombies are still able to move through. And we move on to Zed phase 1, which is where we divide and then attack. So we have a total of 7 counters there. 8 counters. So okay, let's take off those 5, leaving us with a stack of 6 and a stack of 7. The stack of 7 will eat the refugees, removing the riot counter as they go, which is something of a mixed blessing, because on the one hand you do remove the riot counter, but as a result of eating refugees you get more zombies, and we have rolled a 1, can't see that again, rolled a 1, which on the Zed burst minimum is now going to be 2, thanks to the D6 Z convention. So an additional 2 zombies. Now, what you can place, or what you do place, when refugees get eaten, is a survivalist, which is very helpful. Okay, Z phase 2 then. It's the same group, the group with 8 counters, which will be this one. We'll move and then we'll attack, rolling a 2, going through that demilitarised zone or the defensive zone. We roll the die, 2 of them will stay behind, and the other 6 will wander on into Arizona. Nothing to eat, so they move again. Running out, this time we have a 4, and so they walk on into Southern California and eat Los Angeles. Or San Diego, take your pick. Okay, we add another group of refugees. I believe, yep, we had a number of refugees, and then we add Z burst maximum, which currently is 5. There are now 11 zombies in California, or Southern California. Okay. Player turn. Research roll. Won't do that because we don't have any research value to roll against at the moment. We do check for riots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, counting the one with the riot on. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's that is a riot counter. Is that a riot counter? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 with the food point, no right counter. That's fantastic. We've sensibly built up our food reserves since the last time. Okay, rolling 4 production points. And I should probably explain that from turn 3 onwards. On turn 3, we rolled 2d3 rather than 1 and an adjustment. So in this case, a 2 and a 3 would be 3 production points on. I think the first thing we'll do is launch an airstrike at the zombies over in Texas. And there are 9, so that will be 2d6, 1 for the group of 5, 1 for the group of 4, minusing the toughness. Now I had to check this a moment ago. I think I did the previous airstrike incorrectly. Can't quite remember, but you take away the toughness from each die roll, not from the total. So, for example, we would have 5 minus 2 would be 3, and then 2 minus 2 is 0. So we only lose 3 zombies from Texas. I will repeat that with an airstrike in California. This time we have 11, I want to say 11 zombies in California. So we will roll the first one, which is 6 minus 2, so that's 4. 5 minus 2 is 3, so that's 7 in total so far that they'll lose. And then nothing, so that's 7 from the group of 11. So we need to reduce that down to 4. What will we do with our final production point? That is a good question. I think we probably need to get some more units out. So let's spend our final production point on some National Guard. And we'll place those in the defensive zone between Arizona and Texas. Okay. Now moving on now into the phase I spoke of before, which is the free military action. The only unit I can do that with at the moment is the survivalist, who is in the open territory. They're not placed on a farm, not in a city, and so they can attack. And the way this works during the last part of the player turn is slightly different from how it would work if the zombies attacked us during the Z phase 1 or 2. But essentially this number here is the unit's strength, and you would check to see if that number is higher than the toughness. In the earlier phases, when the zombies attack us, you check their strength. So we're okay. So we are higher than the toughness number. So you roll 2d6 and remove the number of Zeds. Which is actually 12. So we have some very effective survivalists down in Texas. Awesome. Okay, that's the only one we can do that action with. We move on into turn number 4, starting again with that random event. So, random event number 64, which I do hope is better than our last random event where we accidentally nuked Kansas. But in this case, it is a mutation. The Z toughness increases by 1, which is unfortunate because now the only units that can be so effective during that final part of our phase, or part of our turn, is the US Marines, who have a strength of 4. Everybody else is going to be rolling at 1d6 now during that final military action that we can do during our turn. But it is time for Z phase 1, and the only zombies on the board actually. If ever we get all the zombies off the board, we would actually win, and it can result in some very short games. But we are still in the part of the game where zombies are multiplying, and we add the Z burst maximum, which is 5, and one of those 2 groups of 5 will now eat the farm, or they will try to eat the farm. They won't eat the refugees because the priority order is farm first, then open, and the refugees are in the open. Now the US army there is defending that farmland, and so the zombies will attack the military before they attack the farm. If there are still zombies left after the military have had their defense, if they've manned their defense, the farm will be attacked. If the farm is still the farm will be attacked and destroyed. The refugees wouldn't be attacked because they are in the open. It takes a little bit of getting your head around that, but it's okay once you play it. So the military, their strength, Zed's strength is 2. Our strength is 3 as the US Army. The numbers on the counters for the Zeds, I'm not sure I explained earlier, are, but that's just the numbers, number of zombies in that group. And so we have a greater strength than their strength, in which case we still roll a 2d6. Remember, that is different to the combat that happens at the end of the player turn, as we did the survivalist earlier, where we would now be checking against the toughness for that particular action. But we're still on the Z phase 1, and we rolled a 6, and we will remove 6 units from that group of zombies. Now, we have not killed all the zombies, therefore our military unit is no more. It goes into the remove military box, and the zombies proceed to eat the farm. And we add an additional D6 Zs. That is a 3, so we are 3 zombies. No adjustments in this case. Z phase 2 then, we now have 2 groups of 3 zombies. One of them will move and start eating. Move up to Northern California, and San Francisco is now no more. Or it could be another city. I'm not sure how many other major cities there are in Northern California. I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me. We do add D5 Zeds though, and a group of refugees. Okay. Player turn, we roll for research, except we don't have any research points still. Then we check for riots. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 still, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We add 1 riot counter to the group of refugees. That's the priority, refugees before the cities. And then roll for production, which is 2. That's just dreadful, just truly dreadful. Okay. I think we're going to have to start aiming for some nukes. So I'll move the DEFCON up to that a little bit closer. I'm also gonna move the research up. Maybe try and get some of those biochemical weapons, but there's a bit of a process involved in getting that. You have to make a research breakthrough before you can develop the biochemical weapons, which are quite simply the best weapon in the game against the zombies. But let's move on now to turn number 5. As the game goes, it flows really quite quickly. And we have 51, which is international obligations. Remove a military unit from the map. Okay. Any military unit on the board is National Guard. So, wow, okay. And that's one of the things I actually really like about this game. I know it's quite random. You have these challenges that pop up every now and every turn, which can completely derail your plans. But I like the way it all ties in with the theme. And in the back of the book, the rule book, there's a bunch of scenarios that you can replicate your famous zombie movies from days gone by, Night of the Living Dead, or World War Z, various others, as well as some historical scenarios around what happened if you had a zombie apocalypse during the War of Independence, for example. It's good fun, but it does have a lot of dice. Anywho, let us now move to Zed Burst 1. Zed Burst 1. We have 4 Zeds there, 8 Zeds there, so that is 5 up here. They'll split into two groups and then eat the farm, leading to another 4 Zeds. You now have a vast array of zombies up here. Okay, that is 17 Zeds, and we would need a group of 8. 2 groups of 8. Okay. And one of those groups of 8 is going to move. And it's going to move back towards California, where it will eat the refugees, resulting in a survivalist and D6Z zombies. 5 more zombies in Southern California. Wow. Roll for research. Let's hope we roll a 1. We roll a 1. Fantastic. Fantastic. It is lower. Yep, less than or equal. Awesome. So we can now have a research. Now the research is basically you can adjust to your benefit one of these tracks or one of these 2 counters here, and by doing that you allow the next time you have a research breakthrough, you allow that to be those very useful biochemical weapons. You do have to reduce the breakthrough track by the number rolled. So I rolled a 1, which is fine because that's all of my research points now gone. But if I'd had 4 and let's say I'd rolled a 3, just as by way of example, I would have removed all 3. There's a little quirk there in the rules, which my understanding of the rules anyway. But we have now got the option to reduce Zeds, and I think we're going to reduce the Z maximum because they're just spreading out of control basically. That should actually be down there, shouldn't it? And to signify that, we can now on our next turn have research biochemical weapons. Next successful research roll, I've turned that counter to the side just to signify that. We check for riots. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 population areas plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's another riot counter, and this time the riots will go on the city. I believe we just choose one at random. Yeah, it doesn't really make a huge difference. Let's place it onto Detroit, possibly, over by the Great Lakes. Okay. Done the riots, it's time to roll for production. And we have a total of 4. That's more like it. Okay. Now, to win the game, you have to remove all the Zeds. There is part of me that thinks let's boost up to nukes, launch some nukes, remove all the Zeds right now. That will affect our final score because you don't get any points for areas that are nuked. Let's not do that. It would be quite a short moment, and we would of course remove all the counters, so remove our own as well as the enemy. So let's not do that, although that is potentially an option. Instead, let us get that research roll up by spending 2 points on research. And then, with the risk of riots growing, let's spread another one to go up 2. And then I think we'll launch a conventional airstrike against this group here in Southern California. How many do we have? Good question. We have 5, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so that's going to be 4 die rolls, reducing the toughness from each. So nothing for the 2, 1 removed for that roll, and then repeating that. There we have 1, 2, so just a grand total of 3 zombies removed during that airstrike. Wow, it's so important to get that toughness down, isn't it? Okay, maybe we should have done that rather than reducing the maximum. We shall find out very shortly, because we're now moving into that was the end of our player turn. We can now attack with the survivalists. We could, but we won't. I think we'd stand a better chance of removing more Zeds if we wait until they attack us at next turn. So moving on, turn number 6. Random event. 22. Random event number 22 is rationing. We gain a food reserve. Oh, excellent. That is actually quite good. And then we move into the Zed Burst 1, where we add 4 zombies, it is now, to Southern California. And then the groups split in half and attack the survivalists. Okay, we'll get there in a minute, I'm sure. There we go. Okay, so we have 3 groups of 6. Okay, eat the survivalist. We are now with our survivalists strength of 3. We are able to roll against the Zed strength of 2, which is why we're better off waiting to this turn. So we roll those 2d6, and wow, we moved 10. Awesome. So that is that Zed burst phase over. Moving into Zed burst phase 2, where we add the minimum again to the most populous area, so still in Southern California. And then they will move after dividing 5, 6. Okay, so we have a 5 and a 6. The group of 6 will move, and they will move to Northern California, and they will eat the group of refugees, which will leave a survivalist and also add more zombies In this instance, it will be 4. We've rolled over the maximum, so we reduce down to 4. Maybe it was good doing that reduction there. Okay. Roll for research. 4, no benefit. Riots, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Counting the food reserves, no riot counters. Roll for production. We have, wow, 3 for the 6 and then 2 for the 3. Pushes us to 5 production points in this phase. Okay. Let us let us get some defences here, because eventually the zombies are going to come this way. So let's get 2 Marines. I'm going to put 1 in the defensive zone in the north and 1 in the middle, and follow that up with a US Army, which is going to result in 3 production points down. We'll move up to nukes, and then we will use an airstrike again, this time on Northern California. We have 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, so that's another 4. No, actually that's somewhat more than that. 18 in total, so that's going to be 46. So with nothing and 1, and then nothing and nothing. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, that's dreadful. 3 airstrike. This is our last airstrike. Same thing, same group. Nothing from either of those, and then 1. We removed 1 zombie from Northern California. Okay, our combat moment is quite risky because we have to remove all the zombies from an area, and our toughness is equal, so on a 1d6 we will not do that here, and we will unlikely to remove all 5 from one attack. Basically what happens if you don't eliminate them all, the survivalists or the other military will die as well. So let's wait. Moving into turn 7, random roll. There's a 3 and a 1. So military returning. Place 1 military unit anywhere. Can be taken from available units or from the removed military. Let's take our military back from the overseas commitments and place them in the northwest there. Having a good defensive line here. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Okay, but the Zeds now multiply. We have another 4, it is there. And then they attack. They will attack the survivalist. We are higher in strength, so we roll 2d6. And we remove 4 zombies from that moving group. And the survivalist will be removed. They don't go into the removed military box. Okay, the Zeds have eaten, so we move on to Z phase 2 or Z burst 2, where we add the minimum number, which will be 2. We have 10, 12, 16 in total, so that's going to be 8 zombies, and one of those groups will move in the direction of 2, so that's up this way towards the north, where they will begin to eat the US Army. We can roll two d6 though, because their strength is lower than our toughness. 7 we remove, which does remove all bar 1. Sadly, that one does eat the army. Okay, rolling for research now that we're in the player turn. Nope, nothing. We need to get under a 2. Riots, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, still got 10, so we're still good for riots. We have 3 production points. I think we need to try and contain these zombies now, so we are going to launch some nukes. Launch 2 nuclear strikes, 1 in the northwest, 1 in California, and remove all the zombies from those areas. Meaning we now have a reasonable chance of winning, shall we say. We just need to remove those zombies. I think what I will do is boost my research just in case we don't. Moving into that freebie phase where we can attack, and we have 1d6 because we're at an equal strength. That's correct, isn't it? Yep, that's correct. Or 4. Oh, it's about a 1 zombie. Survivalist is removed. And then we add Zeds, in this case, to the burst maximum. Which we should have done when the army were reaching here as well, actually, but we nuked them, so it's all right. Sorry, didn't need to roll. Zed burst minimum. They just have 2 Zeds added to Southern California. Okay, moving into turn number 8 then. We will roll for that random event. 65. We were doing so well. The 65 is another outbreak. And so all our hard work defending the bulk of the country against the outbreak in the Pacific coast may now come to nothing. So that is 1 and 2. Arizona. We have an outbreak in Arizona. And in this case, it is that Z burst maximum. So we put 4 zombies in there. Okay. Okay, but that is where, according to the event, that is where Z burst phase 1 starts. So these guys will now move. They'll move. I'll try to get through the Marines. We will roll a d6, and all 4 of them will stay behind. They are worried about facing the Marines in the Rocky Mountains there. But Z burst phase 2, they will now multiply with 2 additional units, 2 additional zombies, and 3 of them will move. They will try against the army. Not sure if there's any rivalry going on there, but maybe there is, maybe there isn't. And how many of them will make it? None of them. They'll all stay behind. So the defensive line across the mountains is holding. Player turn, roll for research, which is a 3. We are now able to use those biochemical weapons, deducting our research points. Okay, so we can now use them as part of our actions in the same way we did the nukes, and we have 4 production points, so I will use the biochemical weapons, and quite simply that means you pick a region, roll 2d6 and remove that number of zombies. So 9. We have 6. Excellent. That region is gone, or at least the zombies from that region is gone. It's not quite as detrimental to us as the nuclear attacks. And then I will repeat here. Oops. 3 and 3. That's it. Done. And I believe we have won. We have removed all the zombies from the board. And so now we have won the game, and we work out our points. Right, so we get, in terms of the points, we get 3 points for cities without any riot counters. That is 6, that's 18 points. 2 points for cities with riot counters. I just have one of those, that's 20 points. 1 point for the refugee with a riot counter, that's 21. 1 per farm, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 1 per region without any Zeds or nuclear counters, so that's 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. 49, and then 1 point for every turn prior to turn 10, with 2 turns away from turn 10, so that's 51. And 51, according to this book here, is a good score. Pleased with that. Okay, fantastic. I hope you enjoyed that, as always. Yeah, it's a fun game. It is very dice chucky, quite an element of chaotic randomness to it, but it's fun. It's a tremendous amount of fun. It's got a lot of replayability. I mentioned some scenarios earlier on, and there are a bunch, like historical scenarios, or you can replicate The Walking Dead, or Van Helsing, or Cloverfield, or what have you. There's a whole bunch of different scenarios in here. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this one. Hope you've enjoyed the playthrough. I think I mentioned at the beginning, but if I didn't, please do consider clicking the like button and the subscribe button to help support the channel. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.